My dear brothers and sisters, what if I told you that the biggest regret of your life might come from something you say today, not your actions, not your decisions, but your words? Because once words leave your mouth, they never return. And that is why learning when to speak and when to remain silent is one of the most powerful skills you will ever master. One, silence is wisdom. My dear brothers and sisters, not every thought deserves to be spoken, and not every feeling needs to be expressed immediately. One of the greatest signs of maturity is the ability to pause before speaking, to reflect before reacting, and to understand that words are not just sounds, they are decisions. Every sentence you speak carries consequences, either bringing peace or creating damage, either building respect or silently destroying it. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that whoever believes in Allah and the last day should speak good or remain silent. This is not a small teaching. This is a powerful mihaya for how we live our daily lives. It teaches us that speech is not something casual. It is ibadah when used correctly, and it becomes a burden when used carelessly. Every word you speak is being recorded, and every silence you choose is also noticed by Allah. Silence is not weakness. Silence is hikmat. It is the strength to hold back when your emotions are pushing you to react. It is the discipline to stay quiet when you feel the urge to prove yourself. It is the wisdom to understand that not every situation needs your opinion, and not every conversation deserves your voice. Many people speak just to be heard, but wise people remain silent until their words bring value. When you remain silent, you are not empty, you are aware. You begin to observe people more deeply. You understand intentions, emotions, and hidden meanings that you would have missed if you were busy talking. Silence sharpens your understanding. It gives you clarity. It allows you to listen not just with your ears, but with your heart. You are choosing peace over noise. You are choosing dignity over regret. How many times have people said something in anger and wished they could take it back? How many relationships have been damaged because of one careless sentence? But when you train yourself to pause, to hold your words, to let your emotions settle, you protect yourself from these regrets. Silence becomes your shield. The one who controls their tongue controls their life, because the tongue is connected to the heart, and when the heart is undisciplined, the tongue becomes dangerous. But when the heart is calm and aware, the tongue becomes controlled and wise. This is why controlling your speech is not just about words, it is about mastering your inner self. So learn to slow down before you speak. Learn to ask yourself, is this necessary? Is this beneficial? Is this pleasing to Allah? If the answer is no, then silence is better. Because sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is choosing not to speak at all. 2. Talking too much reduces your value. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the most misunderstood habits in life is this idea that the more you speak, the more important you become. People often feel that by constantly talking, explaining, and sharing, they will be noticed, valued, and respected. But the reality is completely opposite. When you talk too much, your words begin to lose weight. Think about it carefully. When a person speaks all the time, people stop paying attention. Their words become predictable. Their voice becomes background noise. But when a person speaks less and speaks with purpose, people listen more carefully. Every word carries impact. Every sentence feels meaningful. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was the best example of this balance. He did not speak unnecessarily, yet when he spoke, hearts were moved, minds were guided, and lives were changed. His words were few, but full of wisdom. This teaches us that value is not in quantity, it is in quality. Talking too much also exposes you more than you realize. The more you speak, the more chances you have to say something unnecessary, something careless, or something that may be misunderstood. Many people lose respect not because they lack intelligence, but because they speak without thinking. They reveal too much, they explain too much, and they try too hard to be heard. When you constantly explain yourself, you slowly reduce your own value. You make it seem like you are seeking approval, like you need others to validate your choices. But a person who understands their worth does not feel the need to justify everything. Their silence speaks confidence. Their calmness reflects strength. There is also another danger in excessive talking. It often leads to kalam that has no benefit. Conversations turn into gossip, unnecessary opinions, or discussions that bring no goodness. And every word that does not benefit you can become a burden for you. The tongue can easily slip into saying things that harm others even when you did not intend it. When you train yourself to speak less, something powerful begins to happen. You start choosing your words carefully. You begin to think before you speak. You develop a presence where people take you seriously. Your kalam becomes respected because it is rare, thoughtful, and intentional. Understand this deeply. Not every silence makes you look weak. In fact, most of the time, silence makes you look stronger. It shows that you are in control. It shows that you are not desperate to fill every moment with noise. It shows that your self-worth does not depend on how much you are heard. So learn to hold your words. Speak when it adds value. Speak when it brings khair. Speak when it is necessary. But when it is not, choose silence. Because sometimes the fastest way to increase your value is to reduce your al-kalam. 3. Oversharing brings regret. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the most common sources of regret in life is not what we did, but what we said. A moment of unnecessary sharing, a few extra details, a conversation that went too far, and suddenly you wish you could take your words back. But once they leave your mouth, they no longer belong to you. Oversharing is not just talking. It is exposing parts of your life that should have been protected. It is revealing your plans before they are complete, sharing your struggles with those who cannot understand you, and trusting people with information they were never meant to carry. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam taught us wisdom in speech. He did not expose everything, nor did he encourage people to make their private matters public. There is a deep lesson here. Not everything needs to be shared, and not everyone deserves access to your personal life. When you overshare your plans, you open the door to doubt and negativity. People may discourage you, question you, or even secretly compete with you. What was once a hilm becomes weakened by outside voices. Sometimes silence protects your vision better than explanation ever could. When you overshare your struggles, you risk being misunderstood or judged. Not every person has the qalb to feel your pain or the wisdom to respond correctly. Some may listen, but not care. Some may pretend to support you, but later use your weaknesses against you. This is why wisdom is not just in speaking, but in choosing the right audience. Oversharing also reduces your emotional stability. When you constantly talk about your life, you begin to depend on people's reactions. You look for validation. You feel affected by opinions. Your peace becomes tied to how others respond. But when you keep certain things between you and Allah, your heart becomes stronger, more stable, and more focused. There is a difference between honesty and exposure. Islam does not teach us to hide the truth, but it teaches us to protect our dignity. You can be honest without revealing everything. You can be open without losing your boundaries. Wisdom is knowing the balance. Reflect on how many times people regretted their words. A secret shared in trust later became public. A personal matter discussed openly later became a source of embarrassment. A plan announced too early never came to life because it lost its core. These are not small losses, these are lessons. When you learn to hold your words, you gain control over your life. You protect your dreams from unnecessary interference. You protect your heart from unnecessary hurt. And you protect your reputation from unnecessary exposure. So before you speak, ask yourself, is this necessary to share? Will this benefit me? Is this the right person to tell? If the answer is not clear, then silence is safer. Because sometimes the best way to avoid regret is to say less and protect more. 4. Words can destroy relationships. My dear brothers and sisters, many people think that relationships break because of major betrayals or big mistakes. But if you reflect deeply, you will realize that most relationships are not destroyed in one moment. They are slowly damaged by words. A sentence spoken in anger, a harsh tone during a disagreement, a careless comment made without thinking. These are the things that quietly weaken the bond between hearts. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam warned us that a person may say a word without giving it importance, yet it can lead to serious consequences. This teaches us something very powerful. Words are not light. Even when they feel small to you, they can be heavy for someone else. When you speak in anger, you are not speaking from wisdom, you are speaking from emotion. And emotions, when uncontrolled, do not choose words carefully. They choose words that hurt, words that attack, words that leave scars, and the painful truth is those scars remain even after apologies are made. How many times has someone said, "I didn't mean it," but the damage was already done? How many hearts have been broken not by actions but by words that were never forgotten? Relationships are built on trust, respect, and emotional safety. When your words become harsh, sarcastic, or disrespectful, you slowly remove that safety. The other person begins to feel uncomfortable, guarded, and distant. Even if they stay, their heart starts to withdraw. This is why controlling your tongue is not just about personal discipline, it is about protecting the people around you. Sometimes silence in a heated moment is far more powerful than speaking. When you are angry, your silence gives you time to calm down. It gives you space to think clearly. It prevents you from saying something that you will regret later. A wise person understands that not every emotion needs immediate expression. Just because you feel something strongly does not mean you should say it immediately. Delay your response and you protect your relationship. Another important point to reflect on is the tone of your speech. Sometimes it is not what you say, but how you say it. A simple sentence can feel kind or cruel depending on your tone. Respectful words spoken gently can strengthen bonds, while the same words spoken harshly can break them. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was known for his gentle speech. Even when correcting others, he did so with kindness and wisdom. He did not humiliate people, he did not insult them, and he did not use harsh words unnecessarily. This is the example we must follow. Also remember, once words leave your mouth, you cannot take them back. You can apologize, you can regret, you can try to fix things, but the memory of those words remains. This is why prevention is always better than repair. So train yourself to pause before speaking, especially in emotional moments. Ask yourself, will this bring peace or pain? Will this strengthen the relationship or weaken it? If your words carry harm, then silence is better. Because sometimes saving a relationship is not about saying more, it is about saying less at the right time. And the one who learns to control their tongue protects not only themselves, but the hearts of those they love. 5. Not every argument needs a response. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the greatest signs of wisdom and emotional strength is knowing when to remain silent. In a world where everyone feels the need to respond, defend, and prove themselves, the one who chooses silence at the right moment stands at a completely different level. Not every argument deserves your response. Not every opinion requires your explanation. Not every accusation needs your defense. Many people fall into the trap of thinking that if they do not respond, they will appear weak. They feel that silence means defeat. But in reality, unnecessary responses often lead to unnecessary problems. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam taught us that leaving arguments, even when you are right, is a sign of strong character. Reflect on this deeply. Walking away from an argument when you know you are correct requires more strength than continuing it just to prove a point. Why? Because arguments often do not aim for truth, they aim for victory. When two people argue, it is rarely about understanding, it becomes about ego. Each person wants to win, each person wants the last word. And in this process, respect is lost, hearts are hardened, and relationships are damaged. You may win the argument, but lose the person. You may prove your point, but destroy the connection. This is why wisdom is not in winning every discussion, but in choosing which discussions are worth your energy. There are people who argue not because they want to learn, but because they enjoy conflict. They twist words, ignore logic, and continue debating just to pull you into negativity. If you respond to every such person, you will exhaust yourself emotionally and mentally. Silence in such situations is not weakness, it is protection. It protects your peace. It protects your time. It protects your dignity. When you do not respond to every argument, you show that you are not controlled by others. You show that your emotions are not easily triggered. You show that your self-worth does not depend on proving yourself to everyone. Another important reality is that not every person deserves an explanation. Sometimes people already have a fixed opinion about you. No matter how clearly you explain yourself, they will not understand because they have already decided what they want to believe. In such situations, silence is better than endless explanation. There is also a deep peace that comes from letting go of the need to respond. When you stop reacting to every comment, every criticism, every disagreement, your heart becomes lighter. You are no longer carrying the burden of trying to correct everyone. You begin to realize that your value is not defined by how many arguments you win, but by how much peace you maintain. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam showed us through his character that calmness and restraint are forms of strength. He did not engage in pointless arguments. He chose his words carefully, and when silence was better, he remained silent. This balance is what we must learn. Before responding to any argument, pause and ask yourself, is this discussion beneficial? Will this bring goodness? Is this person genuinely seeking understanding? If the answer is no, then silence is the wiser choice. Because sometimes responding only adds fuel to the fire, and silence is what extinguishes it. Also remember, when you constantly respond to everything, people begin to see you as reactive. But when you choose your responses carefully, people begin to respect your presence. They know that when you speak, it matters. This is the power of restraint. This is the power of controlled speech. So do not feel pressured to respond to everything. Do not feel the need to defend yourself in every situation. Do not waste your energy on arguments that do not benefit you. Walk away when needed. Stay silent when necessary. Because sometimes the strongest response is no response at all. 6. Speaking less protects your heart. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the greatest blessings a person can have is a peaceful heart. A heart that is not constantly disturbed by people, not easily shaken by opinions, and not dependent on the reactions of others. And one of the most powerful ways to protect this peace is to speak less. When a person talks too much, they expose too much of themselves. They share their thoughts, their emotions, their plans, and their struggles with people who may not have the wisdom, sincerity, or care to handle them properly. And when those words are misunderstood, judged, or misused, the heart becomes heavy. But when you speak less, you naturally protect your inner world. You do not give everyone access to your emotions. You do not allow every opinion to enter your heart. You create a boundary between your private life and the outside noise. And this boundary is what protects your peace. Many people today are emotionally exhausted not because of what they go through, but because of how much they expose. They talk about everything, explain everything, react to everything, and slowly their heart becomes overwhelmed. Every comment affects them. Every reaction matters to them. Every opinion shakes them. This is what happens when the tongue is uncontrolled. The heart becomes vulnerable. But when you reduce your speech, something powerful begins to happen. You observe more than you react. You listen more than you explain. You think more than you speak. And through this, your understanding deepens. You begin to see people for who they really are, not just for what they say. You notice intentions, patterns, and behaviors that you would have missed if you were busy talking all the time. Silence sharpens your awareness. And awareness protects your heart. Another important reality is that speaking less reduces emotional dependence on people. When you constantly talk about your life, you begin to expect responses. You look for validation. You wait for understanding. And when those expectations are not met, you feel hurt. But when you keep certain matters between you and Allah, your heart becomes stronger. You rely less on people and more on your connection with Him. You find comfort in your own silence rather than in constant conversation. This is where true emotional stability begins. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam lived with perfect balance. He did not isolate himself, nor did he overshare. He spoke when there was benefit, and he remained silent when silence was better. This balance protected not only his speech but also his heart. We must learn from this example. Understand this deeply. Not everything you feel needs to be expressed immediately. Sometimes emotions need time to settle. Sometimes thoughts need time to become clear. When you speak too quickly, you speak from emotion. But when you pause, you speak from wisdom. And words spoken with wisdom bring peace, not regret. There is also protection in silence during difficult moments. When you are hurt, speaking too much can lead you to say things you will regret. You may complain excessively, expose your pain to the wrong people, or express anger in ways that harm you later. But when you choose silence in those moments, you give your heart time to heal. You allow yourself to process your emotions without making them worse. Silence becomes a space for reflection, not reaction. Silence also protects you from unnecessary conflict. Many arguments begin with words that did not need to be said. Many misunderstandings grow because too much was spoken without clarity. But when you speak less, you reduce these risks. You create fewer opportunities for conflict and more space for peace. And there is something beautiful about a person who is calm in their speech. They do not rush to talk. They do not interrupt. They do not feel the need to dominate every conversation. Their presence feels peaceful because their words are controlled, thoughtful, and gentle. This kind of person protects not only their own heart, but also the hearts of others. Remember, your heart is an amana. It is something you must protect. And one of the easiest ways to damage it is by allowing too many unnecessary words to leave your mouth. So train yourself to speak with intention. Before you speak, ask yourself, is this necessary? Will this benefit me or others? Is this the right time and the right person? If the answer is unclear, then silence is safer. Because sometimes protecting your heart is not about doing more, it is about saying less. The one who learns to control their speech learns to control their emotions. And the one who controls their emotions lives with a qalb that is calm, stable, and strong. So speak less, observe more, and protect the peace that Allah has placed within you. 7. Controlling your tongue is true strength. My dear brothers and sisters, when people think about strength, they often imagine power, authority, or the ability to dominate others. They think strength is in speaking loudly, proving a point, or always having the last word. But the reality taught by the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is completely different. True strength is not in controlling others. True strength is in controlling yourself. And one of the clearest signs of this strength is controlling your tongue. The tongue is small, yet it is one of the most powerful parts of the human body. It can bring hearts together and it can break them apart. It can earn you respect and it can destroy your reputation. It can bring reward and it can lead to regret. This is why mastering your tongue is not a small achievement. It is a lifelong discipline. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam reminded us that a person may say a word that pleases Allah without realizing its full value, and it raises them in rank. And a person may say a word that displeases Allah without thinking about it, and it can lead to serious consequences. Reflect on this deeply. A single word can change your direction in this life and the next. This means your tongue is not just speaking, it is building your future. Controlling your tongue requires patience. It requires awareness. It requires the ability to pause when emotions are high and to think when situations are intense. Anyone can speak when they are angry. Anyone can react when they feel hurt. But only a strong person can remain silent or choose their words carefully in those moments. When anger rises, the tongue becomes dangerous. It begins to say things that the heart may not even fully mean. It exaggerates, it accuses, it hurts. And once those words are spoken, even if you regret them later, the damage has already been done. This is why restraint in moments of anger is one of the highest forms of strength. The one who controls their tongue in anger protects their relationships, their dignity, and their peace. They do not allow temporary emotions to create permanent damage. They understand that silence in such moments is not defeat, it is wisdom. Another form of strength is resisting the urge to speak unnecessarily. Many people talk not because they need to, but because they feel uncomfortable with silence. They feel the need to fill every moment with words, to share every thought, to express every opinion. But the strong person is comfortable with silence. They do not feel the need to prove themselves through constant al-kalam. They do not seek attention through unnecessary speech. They are secure within themselves, and this security allows them to speak only when there is benefit. Controlling your tongue also means avoiding harmful speech such as gossip, backbiting, and al-kalam that damages others. It is easy to fall into these habits, especially in social settings where people bond over discussing others. But this is not harmless. It slowly corrupts the heart and reduces your character. The strong person walks away from such conversations. The strong person changes the topic or remains silent. The strong person chooses integrity over entertainment. This is not easy, but it is powerful. Another important aspect of controlling your tongue is speaking truth with wisdom. Strength is not just in staying silent, but also in knowing when to speak and how to speak. Sometimes silence can protect you, but sometimes speaking with justice and kindness is necessary. The balance is what defines true strength. You speak when it brings khair. You remain silent when it prevents harm. You choose your words based on wisdom, not emotion. This level of control does not come overnight. It requires constant effort, self-reflection, and awareness. You have to train yourself to pause before speaking. You have to remind yourself that every word is being recorded. You have to hold yourself accountable for what you say. And over time, this discipline transforms you. Your speech becomes calmer. Your presence becomes more respected. Your relationships become stronger. Your heart becomes more peaceful. And your connection with Allah becomes deeper. Because when you control your tongue, you are not just controlling your speech, you are controlling your ego. You are resisting the urge to react, to argue, to show off, or to hurt. You are choosing a higher path. Remember, not every battle needs to be fought with words. Not every silence is a loss. Sometimes silence is your victory. Sometimes silence is your protection. Sometimes silence is your strength. So train yourself to speak less but speak better. Train yourself to pause before reacting. Train yourself to hold your tongue when emotions rise. Because the one who masters their tongue masters their life. And the one who masters their life walks with dignity, wisdom, and true strength. May Allah grant us the ability to control our tongues, to speak what is good, and to remain silent from what brings harm. Amen. My dear brothers and sisters, the tongue may be small, but its impact is azim. It can raise you in rank or bring you down in ways you never imagined. It can heal hearts or break them. It can bring peace into your life or fill it with regret. So, before you speak, pause. Before you react, reflect. And remember the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ, that true success is not in speaking more, but in speaking what is right and remaining silent from what is harmful. Train your tongue and you will protect your heart. Protect your words and you will protect your life. Because sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is the one you choose not to say. May Allah grant us tongues that speak truth, hearts that remain pure, and the wisdom to stay silent when silence is better. Amen.